Now, back to our utopia.
Hunting, whether for sport or food, has historically been a popular way to instigate outdoor exploration. But for many, maybe most, hunting, killing, has no appeal. But what if you could hunt with no weapon, no gun, no arrows, no steel traps? The vast vistas of Utah await your discovery, along with the discarded antlers that litter the landscape. Invite this potential for new discovery into your world and connect with the giant beasts, moose, elk, deer, through hunting what they've left behind. There are treasures in these here hills. So we traveled to Price, Utah, and met up with Aaron Bott from the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources for some pro tips on hunting antler sheds.
I'm keeping my eyes peeled, looking for any sign of ivory, anything that would look like an antler. I'm investigating even tree branches that could potentially be an antler. As I get up closer, I'm looking on the ground to see track or scat of the deer. We're in winter range right now. These animals come off of the mountains to get away from the deep snows during the winter so that they can browse down here in habitat that's less severe. And the animals shed their antlers during the winter months. And so it's down in these lower elevations or in the foothills where they're going to be dropping their antlers.
Since 2006, Aaron Bott has been working as a naturalist, biologist, wildlife education specialist, and backcountry wilderness guide. He is considered an authority and specialist in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, the Northern Continental Divide ecosystem, and the Colorado Plateau. The perfect person to be leading this adventure.
We have 3 species of deer in the state of Utah: moose, mule deer, and elk. And each one of these species sheds their antler at a slightly different time. So moose are the largest deer species, and they actually shed their antlers in December typically. Mule deer will shed their antlers between January and February, and elk are the last to shed their antlers. So they'll drop theirs usually end of March into April.
Antlers are not horns, and horns are not antlers. They're both found on the heads of animals, but that's where the similarities end. The biggest difference? Antlers are shed. Horns are not. An antler is a deciduous bone that grows back every year, while horns are bone wrapped in keratin, the same material as a human fingernail. Horns grow on animals in the bovid family: cows, pronghorn, sheep, goats. They are permanent, and they grow on both males and females. Another fun fact: horns grow from the base. Antlers grow from the tip.
So antlers are used by deer species primarily as a secondary sexual characteristic. So the males grow them to look really good and impressive for the females. It gets the girlfriends. And they use these to fight one another for breeding rights. They use them as status symbols. And basically, the more symmetry you have, the larger and more robust your antlers are, the more females you're going to get during breeding season. deer antler from this year, it looks like it.
You found it in the tree, in the bush.
Yeah. So generally they'll drop the other antler within a couple hours of the first, if not sooner. So we might as well look around and see if we could find the second one. Oh, there it is.
Got it?
Wow, look at that.
No way.
Ooh, yep.
Good luck.
Fish on.
Wow.
Mule deer antlers, like these that Aaron just found, can grow to 4 or 5 points each, have a length and spread of 2 feet, and weigh 3 to 4 pounds each. Antler size is an indication of health because antlers take a considerable amount of resources to produce and carry. Antlers are the fastest growing animal tissue in the vertebrate world, and once antlers are shed, they begin growing again immediately.
When they're growing every spring, they get covered in what's known as a velvet, which is a fine skin. It's highly innervated and vascularized, and it's providing nutrients to these antlers that then grow. And as the rut comes around, or the breeding season, the animals then will have the skin or the velvet die off. The animals will rub and polish their antlers that become then a dead bone. And they'll use these to compete for females or for breeding rights. And then after the rut, after the breeding season is over, testosterone levels drop, there's a demineralization process, and the antlers shed off naturally. They regenerate year after year after year. It's something that's pretty remarkable.
The 5 species of animals with antlers in North America are caribou, moose, elk, mule deer, and white-tailed deer. Utah is fortunate to have a majority.
So when the antler begins to shed, there's a demineralizing process at the base of the antler on what's called the pedicle. And the antler starts to get loose, and within a couple hours it will generally drop. And to help speed that along, it's pretty common to have elk or deer or moose go rub up against trees or bushes and shake their heads to help those antlers drop off. So oftentimes you'll find antlers at the bases of trees or in bushes.
The 2 biggest negative impacts on deer populations in the state of Utah are drought and the harshness of winter. It's important to remember when shed hunting to be respectful of animals, especially from February through mid-April. When they are emerging from their wintering grounds, keep your distance. Do not pressure the animals. Do not harass them. This is a crucial period for their survival, and they don't need the added stress of being startled or chased.
Woo! Yeah.
Oh man, they're the ones I like playing.
Elk antlers, like these, can grow to 7 or 8 points each,
Awesome.
can have a length and spread of 4 feet, and weigh up to 20 pounds each.
Well, there's not really any negative ecological effects if you take the antlers, but there are a lot of species that do utilize shed antlers. The antlers are primarily made of calcium and phosphorus, just like a regular bone is. And so when they're shed into the environment, you have rodents, you have lagomorphs like your rabbits, you have canids, your fox, your coyotes. They go and they'll chew on those just like your dog would chew on a bone. Common for you to find antlers that are old, that have been gnawed on or have been chewed on.
To go shed hunting in Utah between February 1st and the middle of April, a certificate is required. Visit the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources website and take a short ethics course on being respectful of wildlife and respectful of the property you are using as your hunting grounds. If it's private property, you need written permission from the landowner.
It's really important that you know where you're going. If it's private property, you need written permission to get onto that private property. Some public areas are closed during this sensitive time of year in order to protect wildlife populations. So again, you need to know where you're going and who owns the property. Different rules for different places. after April 15th, you don't need to have a certificate to go shed hunting. You can get out in the field, you can go recreating with your family, and if you find an antler, then you can keep it.
Moose antlers, like these that Merrick and McCoy just found, can have a spread of 6 feet and can weigh up to 75 pounds. Each deer species has a standard antler format. They look a certain way. Moose are the largest species of deer in the world, and they also grow the largest and heaviest antlers. The points on the antlers are called tines. So if you see a 4-point buck, that generally means that mule deer has 4 tines or 4 spikes on its antlers. Moose tines are less pronounced than elk or mule deer. When the animals are in their prime is when their antlers will be the largest. When deer are young, the testosterone levels are lower, and so the antlers are smaller. As they grow to mature males, their antlers are at their peak. As deer get older, the testosterone levels drop, so the antlers aren't quite as robust. Moose are only in the northern part of the state, but mule deer and elk can be found in all corners of Utah. There are 300,000 mule deer in Utah, 81,000 elk, and 8,000 moose. Half of those animals, the males, have antlers, and those males have 2 antlers each. So put on your best hiking shoes and a backpack full of water and snacks, because there are almost 500,000 new antlers annually waiting to be discovered here in our Utopia.